Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data show. Today, we have the pleasure of chatting with Lucia Stefanuto on a very important topic of neuroscience and data visualizations. Now, I don't know much about this topic, and that's why we have this industry expert to walk us through what it is, why it's important, and really offer some recommendations on it too. Lucia, tell us a little bit about yourself and what really drawn you to this topic.
Well, hello everyone. I am from Argentina. I have been working for 15 years in data visualization, and I really love preparing dashboards and charts and everything. The moment I get a database, I am able to transform it into graphs. It's the best of the day. I started my career studying marketing and business. Back then, it didn't exist anything compared with data visualization, data analysis, big data, or anything of the kind. And as soon as I graduated from marketing, I started working in market research. I conducted surveys, interviews, and then I prepared reports from it. Of course, in Excel, PowerPoint, that was the best tools I had. Um, then I wanted a deeper understanding of the consumer mind. That's why I started reading about neuroscience. And I took a course on neuromarketing, which was amazing. It really blew my mind to understand how much of our decisions are actually not made consciously, but our brain, we have three types of brain: the inner brain and the emotional brain and the prefrontal cortex, which actually makes the decisions and is rational and understands mathematics. But we are more, I don't know, whatever we do, it's mostly a responsibility of our inner brain. Why should we use a red color in a graph to draw attention? Why? Because our ancestors had to pay attention to bright colors because it could be a danger to their lives. So we are not so evolved to understand the graph intuitively as we are to colors and forms, movements, and it's really interesting. And then, well,
That's fascinating. Again, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this segment of the show and sharing your learnings with our audience. So the neuroscience in part is really understanding all these intricacies from the human brain and how we interpret different visualizations and then converting those into those best practices and just putting together better visualizations really for everybody to digest.
exactly. Neuroscience is the study of our brain, how it reacts to stimulus and everything. So if we know that a bar chart is easier to comprehend than another chart from a design perspective, but you need to read all the information to understand what the color blue means and what the other product is or anything, you spend a lot of time on that. And the main idea is that our brain is lazy. It has a lot going on. It has to keep us alive, to digest, to pay attention to the radio, the cell phone, everything that's going on. And we are trying to read a graph also. So if it is easy to understand, we just read it and have the idea of the message that we wanted to show. But if it's too complex, our brain will try to avoid it at any way. If we really need to learn it, we'll try to do it, but it will consume a lot of energy. And next time our brain sees a similar graph and say, no, come on, that's useless. Go to read the text, it will be easier.
Well, I could see this is something very useful for anybody that's putting together data visualizations for data analysts, data scientists, BI programmers, but I guess even for those that are consuming that information and understanding how much better or what are those best practices that should be followed for the visualizations that they consume so they can maybe offer recommendations, directions to the teams that they're working with.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely. The main idea of preparing a graph is to send a message. So you need to ensure that the message arrives in the way that you intended to. So anyone from a company that the board meets for 5 minutes and they have to make decisions, they need something that they can scan quickly and know that they are taking the best decision based in data. And and even an NGO that needs to spread the message of global warming and anything that they need, that the visualization they are providing is really clear for everyone, even non-data literate. So yeah, it's really important. And as viewers, it's also useful to understand why we are drawn to certain graphs more than others. To see that it's our brain that's trying to spend the less energy possible understanding them.
That's a very good point. And sometimes I feel this also could be misused. I'm noticing
Mhm.
sometimes at certain news channels that they're portraying certain information in a way that really confirms the message that they want to deliver, but not necessarily the reality. So we should always be mindful of that too. But I think understanding these best practices also make us then more aware of these techniques that are being used, sometimes
Yeah,
in
definitely.
nefarious ways.
Yeah, an example of that is when they cut the bar chart initial. So instead of starting at 0, it starts at 45, and then you have a huge difference between the bars. And since our brain processes images faster and easier than we do numbers, maybe you can read that one product is 55 and the other is 45, but the message that you read is that the difference is huge because of the truncate axis. And yes, we must ensure everyone keeps good ethics at preparing the
Mm.
graphs.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Lucia, do you have a set of go-to tips and tricks, best practices that you recommend for our watchers, listeners to follow?
Yeah, the most important, I think, it is to repeat the message because we pay more attention at the beginning and at the end. So if we want something to be remembered, we have to repeat it. Then we have to highlight what's important because we are trying to just scan and say what's important. So let's provide what's important highlighted instead of really leaving the audience to interpret what could be the most important thing. And also eliminate clutter and keep it simple because having access that are not necessary or grid lines or extra colors makes noise. And our brain will try to focus on everything and then understand what's really the basic information. So if it doesn't add value, it's noise and has to be erased immediately. And also, the brain is selfish. So, if you want the person to pay attention, we have to provide the benefit of giving us their time. I don't know, explaining what are the main takeouts and how he can take action from it would be a great idea. And also, we can attract more attention with movement, colors, different shapes, and emotions. Those really are great to get people to look at what we have prepared.
Thank you, Lucia, for sharing that with us. Do you have your go-to set of colors or color scheme or maybe favorite two, three colors that you tend to always use in your data visual?
I follow a lot of code in storytelling with data, and I'm really turning into everything gray with blue or red or any bright color just to focus on the main insight. Yeah, and it's great what she proposes that first we eliminate every color and leave it all in gray. And from there, we start using color specifically to highlight things.
Yes, that's definitely a great resource, a book and course for people to
Mhm.
take if they want to learn more about that. What other resources would you recommend for our viewers to go and look at if they want to get into this field, learn more, just understand more about the neuroscience behind better data visualizations?
First book I read was The Consumer Brain from Pradeep. It has nothing to do with visualization, but it really helps understanding why our brain behaves like that, what motivates it. It's really easy to read by anyone, so I really recommend it. There are more scientific books like the card error. It's not that bright, but if you are really interested, they explain how the whole neuroscience started. It's really an interesting book. And I'm also taking courses on design. I didn't have it during my career, but I find it fascinating. The principles of design and colors and pre-attentive attributes and it's really useful. There are user experience course that also talk about it. I don't have a specific book on neuroscience for data visualization, but all of this can be linked to it, just paying attention from a data visualization perspective.
Rightfully so. Well, thank you so much, Lucia, for being on the Lights on Data show today and imparting your knowledge with our audience. And we hope to have you back.
Thank you so much.